Jim Harbaugh will be driving up as a head coach. Again, in the NFL. Now, if you didn't see this, somehow you've been out of the bubble of trust, which is possible. Maybe you have stuff going on. Jim Harbaugh has agreed to terms. He'll be the new head coach of the Los Angeles Chargers. Show me your lightning bolt! Jim Harbaugh leaving Michigan. 9 seasons. Remember how bad Harbaugh was at the beginning and people were ripping Harbaugh? I was ripping Harbaugh. He was terrible at the start at Michigan. But he ends up leaving after the first national championship since 1997 for that school. And this comes after Jim Harbaugh had flirted with not one but 2 NFL teams in recent years. A couple years ago, he was hanging out with the Vikings, having a juicy-loosey. Was supposedly going to go to Minnesota, and then last minute he goes back to Ann Arbor. And then last year, Jim Harbaugh was talking to the Denver Broncos. The people at Walmart did not offer him enough money, so that was that. That was that, and he went back to Michigan. But now, third time's the charm. And just for the record, before I get into the meat of the Maller monologue, this validates roughly 77 Maller monologues that I've done over the years about Jim Harbaugh's going back to the NFL, Jim Harbaugh's going back to the NFL, Jim Harbaugh's going back to the NFL.
Yes.
Over.
Yes.
Yeah, that's take validation.
Yes.
Thank you, Jim Harbaugh. I have received what every blowhard and gas bag wants. Take validation. So thank you for that. All right, now as for the Komodo dragon in the room, Harbaugh leaving the NCAA law behind. He's one step ahead of the NCAA rulebook. So the question, what letter grade do you give Jim Harbaugh and the Chargers, that relationship, which has been consummated now, as they have agreed to terms to become the new head coach of the Chargers? So what letter grade? Well, we go to the Maller report card in a minute. We have, though, Michelin Man, footprints, and volcanologist. And we will combine all of these things together, and we are going to make a hokey phrase, which Jim Harbaugh has mastered the art of the hokey phrase over his time at Michigan. So as far as the Maller report card, as you know, I'm negative. I've been called the most negative man here in the overnights. So I'm going to be negative towards Jim Harbaugh. This gets an A+. Is that negative enough for you? An A+ for Jim Harbaugh and the Chargers here. This is a wonderful move. I am Benny Brightside on this one. I am Benny Brightside for many, many reasons. But even before drafting a player, and the Chargers have a high draft pick because they sucked last season, but even before drafting a player or signing a big-name free agent, before doing any of that, what the Chargers have done is won the offseason. Now, you don't get to celebrate a shiny trophy by winning the offseason, but the Chargers are tangibly better today than they were at the end of the regular season, and they'll make some other moves, I'm sure, to add players. Every team adds random players, but this is a major upgrade in a very important department, the coaching department, a major upgrade situation. For years, we have heard the same mantra when it comes to the Chargers. I'm sure you've heard the same thing. Well, the Chargers, they've got really good players. They've got good groceries there, the Chargers. But even though they have those top-tier ingredients, it ends up really disgusting, right? It's like cold food. It's not cooked all the way through. It's disgusting. So now they have gone out and hired, we'll call him a Michelin Man, a Michelin star chef in Jim Harbaugh, to cook up as an artisan in the kitchen a delicioso meal for the Chargers, and handcrafted year after year. Now, Jim Harbaugh is also a bit of a Looney Tune, which is good for my purposes because he does silly things. He says silly things, and that makes for good conversation on the radio. We're also going to get Harbaugh versus Harbaugh. It's on the schedule. Ravens and Chargers will play next season. That is what we call a made-for-TV situation. Just add, what do you think? Sunday Night Football, Mike Tirico, Chris Collinsworth, right? Probably. Not Thursday. They'll put that on a Sunday night, the Harbaugh battle, especially with the Ravens in championship weekend. Now, does Jim Harbaugh show up to Baltimore? His brother's coaching the Ravens, right? So does he show up wearing Ravens gear? He's a Chargers coach. It's a little awkward. I saw he was wearing Ravens stuff last week. I don't know. All right, anyway, page 2 here. Why is Jim Harbaugh such a good fit for the Chargers? I'm glad you asked. It's a great question. Thanks for asking. All right, so not only do you have the very mellow fan base that would rather go surfing than worry about added pressure for a head coach. Like, that's the main reason Brandon Staley lasted 2 years longer than he should have. There was no pressure. It took a 60-point beatdown by the Raiders for that to end. Otherwise, Brandon Staley would still be coaching the team there. So the fan base, they're just worried about doing whatever they want to do there. They're not worried about putting pressure on the coach or the team to get rid of the coach if the coach is bad. So you got that. But you got to check the footprints. Very important to check the footprints here. You're not exactly following Sasquatch, as we referenced here. Brandon Staley, what is he most famous for? He's most famous for egregiously going for it on fourth down in your own territory. He's also known for the downward-facing dog yoga pose, right? I get that right. The dolphin yoga pose and all that. So, cowabunga dude, reckless use of analytics. And then you have the curious case of Justin Herbert. Now, this is a pretty good story here because another one of these narratives that gets regurgitated, you've heard it, I'm no different than you. You see the same stuff I see. Maybe I see more, maybe not. I don't know. But the storyline's always been Justin Herbert is great, but has no coach. All right, Justin Herbert is great, but has no coach. That's always been the storyline the last couple of years. So is it true that Jim Harbaugh will be a double-edged sword for Justin Herbert? And I'm nodding my head. Yes, now, following the theme, you and I, the narrative of Herbert being great, wonderful, all that good stuff, all that, right? Justin Herbert's been a stat bandito. He's a poor man's Dakota Prescott. That's the kind of guy he's been, right? Guy chokes in big games, but there were 4 games early in the year where the Chargers had the ball. I think it was by midway of the season. They had 4 games. I remember I talked about this on the TV show. They had 4 games where they had possession of the ball, either tied or down by 1 score, and they botched it. And Justin Herbert, playing quarterback, he could not lead them down the field. Also, an overtime game. There were several close games, and those all went away because Justin Herbert was lacking performance in the pressure. So now, all those empty numbers, if you're not winning, you can't blame Jim Harbaugh. So that excuse is out the window. So it is a double-edged sword. You got a better coach, but now if you continue to ride the vomit comet, then it's on you. It's not on someone else. It's on you. All right, last word here. So what happens to Michigan, the reigning champions of collegiate football, the Michigan Wolverines, as they are left in the dust, as old Tiger broadcaster Ernie Harwell would say, like a house on the side of the road. Just see you later, out of here, goodbye. And so what happens to Michigan? So short term, the A word, agony. This is going to be an agony-like experience for the Michigan football program from champs to chumps short term. A mass exodus is on the horizon. It is. Now, how do we know that? Right? How do we know that? Look at what happened at Alabama. Look at all the players that skedaddled away when Nick Saban exited stage right, and you got Harbaugh exiting stage left. So the way they work things in college football, the transfer portal, I love that term, transfer portal, has opened up for 30 days now. It will open up for 30 days so the Michigan players can get out of Dodge, get out of Ann Arbor, say goodbye to Rob, formerly Rob in Vegas, and get out of there. And see you later. I'm gonzo. I'm going to go to somewhere else. So 30 days to enter the transfer portal. Now we're hearing, if the rumors overnight are true, that Sharon Moore, the offensive line coach and the offensive coordinator is going to take over as the coach, not official, but that's the word we're hearing, that he's going to become the head coach, and that's likely going to be announced like later when the sun comes up on Thursday. That announcement will come down. And I have nothing against him. I know he filled in for Harbaugh during the season when Harbaugh was suspended and all that, so seems like a nice enough guy. He's going to need divine intervention. Good luck with the players taking off to other places. And so that said, the way I analyze the Michigan football program, it's the way a volcanologist would examine a volcano. So they exploded with molten lava this past year in Michigan football. But now with Harbaugh gone and the transfer portal, they will become a dormant volcano. I don't know if you've been reading the story the last couple of weeks about what's going on, I think, in Iceland, where there's been a bunch of dormant volcanoes that have gone kaboom! But they lay dormant for a long time. So Michigan football will go back down. And this is great news for The Ohio State University, as they will be the beneficiary of this, and they will go back up. So that means that's short term, right? Michigan will go down for a little bit, and then I guess volcanologists say the volcanoes that are dormant are still considered active because they could erupt down the line. Michigan, it's a blue blood program. They will rise again. They will rise again in the Mutton State.